September 3, 1939. North Atlantic Ocean, 250 miles northwest of Ireland. The water is black glass under a moonless sky. No sound except the hiss of wind across the waves. Then, without warning, a white wake cuts through the darkness. A torpedo, sleek, silent, hungry. It strikes the SS Athenia amidships. The explosion tears through the hull like paper. Steel screams. Steam erupts. Within minutes, the passenger liner is listing hard to port, taking on thousands of tons of freezing seawater. 117 people will die tonight, men, women, children. Some drown in their cabins. Others are crushed by falling debris. A few make it to lifeboats only to die of exposure before rescue arrives. The ship that killed them is already gone, slipping beneath the surface, silent as a ghost. U-30, a German Type 7 submarine, disappears into the black depths without a trace. Her commander, Oberleutnant Fritz Julius Lemp, made a mistake. He thought the Athenia was an armed merchant cruiser. But the damage is done. Britain and Germany are now at war. And the wolf pack has tasted blood. This is how it begins. The Battle of the Atlantic. The longest, deadliest continuous military campaign of World War II. A 6-year nightmare fought beneath the waves, where entire convoys vanish overnight and the hunters are invisible. For years, the German U-boats will operate with terrifying impunity. They will sink over 3,500 Allied ships. They will kill more than 72,000 sailors and passengers. They will bring Britain to the edge of starvation. And the reason they are so unstoppable is not just their torpedoes or their tactics. It is because they cannot be seen, cannot be predicted, cannot be stopped. Until a 19-year-old woman cracks their secret language in 11 minutes. And the invisible becomes visible. The U-boat is not just a weapon. It is a nightmare made real. In 1939, when war breaks out, Nazi Germany's Kriegsmarine deploys the most advanced submarine fleet the world has ever seen. The Type 7 U-boat is a masterpiece of engineering, 77 meters long, powered by twin diesel engines on the surface and electric motors underwater, capable of diving to 200 meters, armed with 5 torpedo tubes and a deck gun. It can hunt for weeks without resurfacing. It can strike without warning and vanish before the enemy even knows what happened. But the true genius of the U-boat is not its machinery. It is its doctrine. German Admiral Karl Donitz, the architect of U-boat strategy, understands something the other navies have missed. In the last war, submarines hunted alone. They were solitary predators, picking off isolated targets. Effective, but limited. Donitz has a different vision. He calls it riddle tactic, wolf pack tactics. Instead of hunting alone, U-boats hunt in coordinated groups. They spread out across the convoy routes like a net. When one submarine spots a target, it doesn't attack immediately. It shadows the convoy. It radios the position to command. And then the pack converges. 10 submarines. 15. 20. They strike at night from multiple angles, overwhelming the escorts, slaughtering the merchant ships one by one. It is devastatingly effective. The convoys sail from North America to Britain carrying everything the island nation needs to survive. Food, oil, steel, ammunition, troops, tanks, aircraft. Without these supplies, Britain cannot fight, cannot eat, cannot survive. And the U-boats are cutting the lifeline. In the first months of the war, the sinkings are catastrophic. September 1939, 41 ships sunk. October, 27 ships. By the summer of 1940, when France falls and Germany seizes the Atlantic coast, the U-boats gain forward bases. No longer do they have to sail around Scotland to reach the convoy routes. Now they operate from Brest, Lorient, Saint-Nazaire, French ports directly facing the Atlantic. Their range doubles. Their hunting time triples. The crews call it the happy time. Die Glück-like Zeit. For 6 months, from June to December 1940, the U-boats sink over 270 ships for the loss of only 6 submarines. The kill ratio is obscene. British convoys sail into the Atlantic and simply disappear. Captains receive no warning. One moment the sea is calm. The next, a torpedo strikes from nowhere. The ship breaks apart. Men scream. Oil burns. And the wolf responsible is already 2 kilometers away, reloading. The psychological toll is immense. Merchant sailors know the statistics. 1 in 4 of them will die. They sleep in their clothes, life jackets strapped on, boots beside the bunk. They listen to the hull creak and imagine torpedo wakes. Some refuse to go below deck, preferring to freeze on the open bridge where at least they can see death coming. Others drink themselves numb. A few simply refuse to sail. The escorts, destroyers and corvettes assigned to protect the convoys, are helpless. They drop depth charges blindly, hoping to hit something. They zigzag endlessly, burning fuel to avoid torpedoes they cannot see. At night, when the U-boats attack on the surface, the escorts fire star shells to illuminate the darkness, but the submarines are low in the water, nearly invisible. By the time a lookout spots the silhouette, the U-boat has already fired and dived. And the worst part, the part that makes the Royal Navy's blood run cold, is that the U-boats are coordinating perfectly. They know where the convoys are. They know when to attack. They regroup, refuel, and strike again with surgical precision. How? How do they know? The answer is radio. The U-boats communicate constantly. Sighting reports, position updates, attack orders, weather forecasts, fuel status, all transmitted by wireless telegraph, bouncing off the ionosphere, received by command in Germany and relayed to every submarine in the North Atlantic. British listening stations intercept these transmissions. Hundreds of them. Every day. Long strings of 5-letter groups, MKCZSHFJWP Kritov XBLDN. Gibberish. Meaningless. Useless. Because every message is encrypted by a machine called Enigma. The Enigma machine looks like a typewriter bolted to a wooden box. Inside are 3 rotors. Metal discs lined with electrical contacts. When an operator types a letter, the electrical signal passes through the rotors, scrambling it into a different letter. But that's just the beginning. In front of the rotors is a plug board, a panel where pairs of letters are swapped before and after encryption. A becomes T, R becomes M. Add the plug board to the rotors, and the number of possible settings becomes astronomical. The naval version of Enigma, used by the U-boats, has 4 rotors instead of 3. 4 rotors chosen from a set of 8. Rotor positions, plug board settings, daily key sheets. The total number of possible configurations is 150 quintillion. 150 quintillion. To the German cryptographers, it is mathematically unbreakable. To break a single message, an enemy would need to test every possible setting. Even if you could test 1 setting per second, it would take longer than the age of the universe. So the U-boat commanders transmit freely. They coordinate wolf pack attacks in real time. They report convoy positions without fear. They believe, with absolute certainty, that their communications are invincible. And for a long time, they are right. British intelligence is desperate. Every intercepted message is a locked door. They know the U-boats are talking. They know the information is there, attack plans, locations, rendezvous points, but they cannot read it. It is maddening, like watching the enemy through soundproof glass. Prime Minister Winston Churchill writes in his diary, "The only thing that ever really frightened me during the war was the U-boat peril." By early 1941, Britain is on the edge. Merchant ship losses are exceeding construction. Food rationing is tightening. Oil reserves are dwindling. If the U-boats are not stopped, the island will starve. And if Britain falls, Nazi Germany will control all of Europe. The war will be over. Everything depends on breaking Enigma. Bletchley Park, a Victorian mansion in the Buckinghamshire countryside, 50 miles north of London. Before the war, it was a hunting estate. Now it is Britain's most secret weapon. The mansion and its surrounding huts house over 10,000 people, most of them women, working around the clock in shifts. Mathematicians, linguists, chess champions, crossword enthusiasts, engineers, clerks. They have been recruited, often mysteriously, and sworn to absolute secrecy. Most of their families have no idea what they do. The official cover story is that they work for the Foreign Office, doing clerical duties. The truth is they are fighting a hidden war. A war of numbers and letters and patterns. A war fought with pencils and paper and electromechanical machines that click and whir and sometimes, just sometimes, unlock the impossible. Bletchley Park's mission is to break access codes. German, Italian, Japanese. But the hardest, the most critical, is Enigma. And the hardest Enigma of all is the naval version used by the U-boats. The code-breaking effort is divided into sections, each housed in a different hut. Hut 6 works on German Army and Air Force Enigma. Hut 3 translates and analyzes the decrypts. Hut 4 handles naval intelligence. And Hut 8, a cramped, freezing wooden building that smells of damp and tobacco, is where the naval Enigma is broken. Hut 8 is led by Alan Turing, a brilliant, eccentric mathematician from Cambridge. He has designed a machine called the bomb, an electromechanical device that can test thousands of Enigma settings per hour, searching for the correct rotor positions. It is a breakthrough, but it is not magic. The bomb still needs help. It needs cribs, guesses about what the plaintext might say, and it needs someone to analyze the patterns and probabilities that might reveal the daily key settings. This is where Joan Clark comes in. Joan Elizabeth Lowther Clark is born in London in 1917. She is the youngest of 4 children. Her father is a clergyman. Her mother encourages education. Joan is quiet, methodical, intensely focused. She loves puzzles. She loves mathematics. At school, she excels in geometry and algebra, solving problems faster than the teachers can write them. In 1936, she wins a scholarship to Cambridge University to study mathematics. She is one of only a handful of women in the program. The university does not officially award degrees to women. Cambridge will not grant full degrees to women until 1948, but Joan does not care. She is there for the work, not the recognition. She graduates with first-class honors in 1939. Her professors know she is exceptional. When war breaks out, one of them, Gordon Welchman, is recruited to Bletchley Park. He remembers Joan. In June 1940, she receives a letter, vague, official, asking if she would be interested in war work of a confidential nature. She says yes. At first, she is assigned clerical tasks, sorting papers, operating punch card machines. It is boring, beneath her ability, but within weeks, her mathematical talent is noticed. She is moved to Hut 8. She is given a desk, a stack of paper, and a task, banbarismus. Banbarismus is a statistical method for narrowing down Enigma settings. It involves comparing 2 encrypted messages to find overlapping letter patterns that might reveal rotor positions. The process uses long strips of paper punched with holes, hence the name, derived from Banbury, the town where the sheets are printed. You lay the strips on top of each other, slide them along, count the overlaps, calculate the probability that the messages were encrypted with related settings. It is tedious. It is exhausting. It requires absolute concentration and a mind that can hold dozens of variables simultaneously. Most people find it unbearable. Joan finds it fascinating. She works 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer. She sits at her desk, surrounded by paper strips and pencil marks, running calculations in her head, spotting patterns no one else sees. Her colleagues are astonished by her speed and accuracy. Alan Turing, famously awkward and reserved, begins to rely on her. He consults her on statistical problems. He trusts her judgment. She is, quietly, one of the best cryptanalysts at Bletchley Park. But she is paid less than the men. Officially, she is classified as a linguist rather than a cryptanalyst, because the civil service pay structure does not have a grade for female codebreakers. She does not complain. She does not demand recognition. She simply works. By early 1941, Hut 8 is breaking German Army and Air Force Enigma with increasing regularity. But the naval version remains elusive. The U-boat Enigma has an extra rotor. It uses different codebooks. The settings change daily. And the Germans are disciplined. They follow strict radio procedures, avoid repetitions, use short, terse messages. Breaking it requires not just mathematical brilliance but luck. A mistake, a flaw, a crack in the armor. On March 9, 1941, Joan Clark finds that crack. It is 3:47 in the morning. The hut is freezing. Joan has been awake for 16 hours. Her eyes burn. Her fingers are numb. The desk is covered with paper strips, grease pencils, and a half-empty cup of cold tea. In front of her are 2 intercepted messages. Both were transmitted by a U-boat operating southwest of Iceland. The radio operators at the WWII stations, British listening posts scattered across the country, captured the transmissions and sent them to Bletchley Park. On paper, they look like every other intercept, 5-letter groups. QJWPX, LKRMZ, WIN, nonsense. But Joan notices something. The messages were sent 11 minutes apart. Different cipher text, but similar length, similar structure. She suspects it is the same message, retransmitted because the first was not acknowledged. German radio operators are trained never to send the same message twice using the same settings. But they are human, tired, under stress. Mistakes happen. If Joan is right, she has 2 versions of the same plaintext encrypted with slightly different settings. That is a statistical goldmine. She pulls out her banbarismus sheets. She begins comparing the 2 messages letter by letter, position by position, calculating the probability of overlaps. She hypothesizes that the message contains a standard phrase. U-boats send weather reports regularly. The word weather appears often. So does wettervoorhersage, weather forecast. She assumes the message starts with wettervoorhersage. She aligns it with the ciphertext. She runs the probabilities, adjusts the rotor positions, tests the plug board swaps. It takes her 11 minutes. Then she hands the setup to the bomb operators and waits. The bomb, a massive machine of rotating drums and clicking relays, begins its work. It tests rotor settings, thousands per minute, searching for the configuration that transforms the ciphertext into plaintext containing the guessed word. 4 minutes later, the machine stops. A light blinks. A hit. The operators check the settings. Run the decrypt. The message appears: Wettervorhersage Nordatlantic Sudwest Island. Weather forecast. North Atlantic, southwest of Iceland. Position data. Rendezvous coordinates. Wolf pack forming. Joan has done it. She has cracked the U-boat Enigma for March 9th. More importantly, she has found the daily key. Every other message sent that day using the same settings can now be read. Within the hour, Hut 8 is decrypting a flood of U-boat communications. Convoy sightings. Attack plans. Fuel status. Patrol zones. The invisible wolves are suddenly visible. And the Royal Navy is listening. The decrypted intelligence is codenamed Ultra. It is sent immediately to the Operational Intelligence Center in London, a secret unit within the Admiralty. The officers there face an impossible dilemma. They now know where the U-boats are. They can reroute convoys, send destroyers to hunt, maybe even sink a few submarines. But if they act too obviously, the Germans will realize their codes are broken. They will change the system, add more rotors, tighten procedures. Bletchley Park will lose access, and the U-boats will become invisible again. So every decision must be carefully calculated. Save this convoy, but let that one go. Sink this U-boat, but make it look like luck. The British invent cover stories, fake reconnaissance flights, fabricated radar contacts, to hide the fact that they are reading German communications. In the case of Joan's March 9th decrypt, the intelligence is too urgent to ignore. The Wolf Pack is forming near convoy HX-112, a group of 41 merchant ships carrying war supplies from Halifax to Liverpool. If the U-boats converge unchecked, the convoy will be massacred. The Admiralty orders HMS Walker and HMS Vanek, 2 escort destroyers, to alter course and sweep ahead of the convoy. They are told to proceed as if on routine patrol. No mention of intelligence. No suspicion. On the night of March 15, HMS Walker detects a surfaced U-boat on radar. It is U-100, commanded by Joachim Schepp, one of Germany's top aces. He has sunk over 30 Allied ships. He is a legend, untouchable, until tonight. Schepp sees the destroyer too late. He orders a crash dive, but HMS Walker is already on top of him. The destroyer rams the submarine, tearing open the pressure hull. U-100 goes down. Schepp is caught in the conning tower during the collision. He is crushed. He dies instantly. 43 crew members drown. Only 6 survive. Hours later, HMS Vanek detects another U-boat, U-99, commanded by Otto Kretschmer, the most successful U-boat commander of the entire war. 47 ships sunk. A living legend. Vanek fires depth charges. U-99 is crippled. Kretschmer orders the crew to surface and abandon ship. He scuttles the submarine. He is taken prisoner. He will spend the rest of the war in a Canadian POW camp, wondering how the British found him in the middle of the ocean. In one night, the Royal Navy has eliminated 2 of Germany's greatest submarine aces. The Wolf Pack is shattered. Convoy HX-112 loses only 5 ships instead of 20. Joan Clark's 11-minute breakthrough is the reason. But the Germans never know. They assume it is bad luck. Improved radar. A security leak elsewhere. They never suspect Enigma. The machine remains in service. The codes keep flowing. And Bletchley Park keeps reading them. Over the following months, Joan continues her work. She refines Banburismus. She trains others. She becomes indispensable. Alan Turing proposes marriage to her in 1941. She accepts. The engagement is later broken off when Turing confesses he is homosexual, but they remain close friends. Joan's salary, however, remains lower than her male colleagues. She is still classified as a linguist. The bureaucracy will not change. She does not complain. She works. By mid-1941, Bletchley Park is breaking naval Enigma regularly. The intelligence allows the Admiralty to reroute convoys, coordinate hunter-killer groups, and slowly turn the tide. It is not sudden. It is grinding. Incremental. Fewer ships sunk. More U-boats destroyed. More supplies reaching Britain. Historians estimate that breaking Enigma shortened the war by at least 2 years and saved millions of lives. Joan Clark's contributions were essential. Yet for decades, her name remained unknown. The work at Bletchley Park was classified until the 1970s. After the war, Joan continued working in cryptanalysis for GCHQ. She never sought recognition. She never wrote memoirs. She lived quietly, married, and died in 1996 at age 79. It was not until researchers dug into declassified records that her contributions came to light. She had been there at the most critical moments. She had cracked the uncrackable. She had given the Allies eyes in the darkness. And she had done it all in a world that barely acknowledged she existed. The German U-boat commanders believed they were invisible. They trusted their technology, their superiority, their perfect, unbreakable code. They never imagined that a 19-year-old woman in a freezing hut in the English countryside would see through their armor in 11 minutes. But she did. And the wolves of the Atlantic learned too late that no code is unbreakable when the people breaking it refuse to give up. Joan Clark never asked for recognition. But history owes her a debt it can never repay. Every convoy that made it safely across the Atlantic, every sailor who survived, every soldier who landed in Normandy with the supplies to fight, they owe their lives, in part, to the quiet genius of a woman who saw what no one else could see. In the end, the invisible became visible, not because of machines, but because of people like Joan Clark, who looked into the darkness and found the light.